Welcome to Life and Liberty Radio with David Householder. I'm Josh Jose, and together, you and I are taking another step toward freedom, both spiritual and political. So get comfortable, breathe in, and ignite your imagination. Envision a society that is spiritually deep and truly free. It's easy if you try.
One of the truly great things about America is that you can get in a car in San Diego, and as long as you have money in your pocket, cash preferably, you can cross the country, and if you mind your own business and pay your own way, you can be in Boston in a few days, and no one will bother you. That's amazing. The Founding Fathers put together this continent where we speak English all the way across the continent. We use the same money, and there are no checkpoints. First time in human history that a whole continent is literally free to mobility. I don't really like the license plate thing, and people can identify as you go, but that's a whole other topic for another session. But the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision this week, Maryland versus King, came down and said, hey, if you're arrested now, and this doesn't mean charged, and this doesn't mean convicted, if you're arrested, basically someone can say, we want to swab the inside of your cheek for a DNA test. Now that might sound practical. Isn't DNA just the modern-day fingerprint? And we used to check for fingerprints everywhere. Isn't DNA just the modern fingerprint? Isn't it just a better form of that? It's more accurate and much less likely to have a false positive. We've had people on death row executed, whereas if we just had DNA testing back then, we would have certainly gotten them off. They did not commit the crimes. We find out later. So isn't DNA an improvement? And we want to catch the crooks anyways. We'll be better at it. Well, there's a trade-off here. And that trade-off is this. DNA and fingerprints are not the same thing. It's apples and oranges. You can take someone's fingerprints and you're going to know one thing and one thing only, their identity. If you take someone's DNA, you will know everything about them. And you'll have in a government file, which I'm sure will be searchable by who knows who. We know how efficient and honest most of the government is, right? So I'm sure they would never abuse this, but you're going to get the entire citizen database eventually on a government hard drive, all of your DNA put in one place where it's searchable so that if someone commits a crime, we have something to compare it to. Of course, we've got to keep a good database. And at this point, the government not only knows everything about you, they know what you might get sick of, they know everything. DNA tells you an awful lot. I spent a little bit of money and got what was called 23andMe, which is getting my genome run, and it's been fascinating. It would take me weeks to learn all there is to know about me, but the truth is there's a handful of things I could easily die from, and a whole bunch of things there's almost no chance. It's good to know those things, but do I want someone else knowing that? I kind of guard that. I don't really want someone going through my file and knowing me that intimately. This is beyond naked, folks. This is your innards, your outards, everything else. This is all of you, down to your hair color and body shape and everything. And I just don't know that I want everyone to know all of that stuff. It's very kind of off-putting, especially the government, because the government has coercion, the government has force, and is trying to get a monopoly on force. So do I think our government is oppressive? No, I don't. I really don't. I think it's the best government in the world. I really do. And I'm not saying that ironically or sarcastically. But why would we give tools to a possible future totalitarian state? The truth is, if you look at history, things go bad once in a while. And if we give them all of these tools, for instance, a national database for E-Verify, and DNA records for everybody, where does this end? It gives the government more and more ability to track people. Now, we've learned from the scandals of the last few weeks of the Obama administration that governments are not above tracking people and getting lots of illegal information on people without warrants. And this is why we wrote the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment in the Bill of Rights is so terribly, terribly important. And here's what it says: the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath of affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, the persons or things to be seized. Okay, seems to me that is definitely somewhere around charged, if not convicted, certainly not arrested. And there's a big demonstration. They can arrest a whole bunch of people and bring them in and book none of them and send them home, and those people could get a DNA test according to the Supreme Court. So I'm not real big on this. In fact, I think it's a really, really bad idea. Well, keep us safer. Well, that's how we lose all of our freedoms. And the truth is the crime rate is dropping with or without the whole DNA thing anyway, so we don't need to do that. So there's a difference between arrested, charged, and convicted, and we need certain protections along the way. We are not guilty until proven innocent, and we shouldn't be coerced until there's really probable cause for things happening. The reason it's called Maryland versus King is there was a really unsavory character named Alonzo King who had a DNA test done. It turns out he'd been part of a rape situation back in 2003. Well, he protested, you can't use that in court. Well, the truth is, this guy is pretty unsavory, really. You know, we'd all love to see someone like this locked up, and he should be locked up. But everybody's jumping to his defense, and I wish they were jumping to the defense of a nicer person. I really do, because it really colors this whole thing. So once again, we don't have an oppressive state. I really think we still have a free country, but what if things headed south? Well, then the DNA database would already be there available for them, along with the database on every tweet you've ever tweeted, every Facebook message you've ever posted, and, of course, your work record and everything else in the National E-Verify thing. So basically the government will know where you are, what you've done, and exactly the color of your eyes and everything else in your genome. So I think it's a bad idea. Bottom line is that we should not be doing this. I believe that the Fourth Amendment was written exactly for situations like this. So let's pay attention to it.
So put some sunshine and water on these fresh ideas and keep taking that next step toward freedom. Join us every weekday for the latest life and liberty ideas. The views expressed on this program are purely those of the presenter, and not necessarily those of the advertisers or organizations or persons with which the presenter has a relationship. Please click on the Amazon banner at the top of the Life and Liberty page, and consider doing all your online shopping through this portal. See you tomorrow.